You ever notice how some folks handle their firearms like second nature, smooth, effortless, always in control? Meanwhile, others, even experienced shooters, sometimes make mistakes that leave you shaking your head. Well, here's the thing: just because you've been around guns for years doesn't mean you're immune to bad habits. In fact, some of the most overlooked safety mistakes come from seasoned shooters who've gotten too comfortable. Today, we're diving into 5 critical gun safety rules that even the pros tend to overlook. And trust me, ignoring these can lead to costly, even dangerous, consequences. So whether you're new to firearms or you've been carrying for decades, stick around, because what you don't know or what you think you've mastered might just surprise you. Let's start with the one mistake that's responsible for more negligent discharges than just about anything else: complacency with trigger discipline. Now, we all know the golden rule: keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. Sounds simple, right? But here's where experience can actually work against you. The more familiar you get with your firearm, the more muscle memory takes over. And that's where bad habits can creep in. Ever seen someone pull their gun from a holster and just for a split second their finger hovers right over that trigger? Or maybe they're reholstering and, without realizing it, their finger is still in the guard. That's a recipe for disaster. Even highly trained shooters have had negligent discharges this way. The fix? Slow down. Build the habit of indexing your finger along the frame every single time you draw, handle, or holster your weapon. No exceptions. Even if you're dry firing at home, treat that gun like it's always loaded. Because once a bad habit forms, it's tough to break, and it only takes one slip up for something to go terribly wrong. Speaking of bad habits, here's another one that even experienced shooters tend to overlook: reholstering too quickly. Now, I get it. You see guys on the range running drills, drawing, firing, and then snapping that gun right back into the holster like they're in some action movie. But here's the reality: rushing the reholster is how accidents happen. Think about it: when you're drawing, all your focus is on getting that shot off accurately. But when you reholster, most people just shove the gun back in without thinking. And if something obstructs the holster, like a piece of clothing or even just a poor angle, you risk pressing that trigger against resistance. The right way? Slow, deliberate. Think of reholstering as part of the shooting process, not an afterthought. Look the gun into the holster, make sure the path is clear, and only then, gently seat it in place. No rush, no stress, just control. Because no one ever won a gunfight by holstering the fastest. Now, let's talk about something that's rarely discussed, but absolutely crucial: grip maintenance. And no, I'm not just talking about how you hold your gun while shooting. I'm talking about checking your actual grip panels, screws, and overall grip condition. Here's the deal: over time, even the best grips can loosen up, especially if you're running a lot of rounds through your firearm or carrying it daily. If you've ever had a grip panel shift mid-shot, you know how unsettling that can be. A loose grip changes everything. It can mess with your control, your accuracy, and worst of all, it can cause malfunctions if a screw backs out far enough. And yet, how many shooters regularly check their grips? Not many. It takes 2 seconds to inspect and tighten your grips before you head out to the range. Make it a habit, just like checking your ammo or cleaning your gun. And while you're at it, give your entire firearm a once-over. Screws, sights, even magazine base plates, anything that can loosen over time needs a quick check. Because the last thing you want is for your gear to fail when you need it most. And that brings us to something even more overlooked, one that can impact not just your safety, but the safety of everyone around you. We've covered some critical mistakes so far: complacency with trigger discipline, rushing the reholster, and even overlooking grip maintenance. But now, let's talk about something that goes beyond just you, because this next one could put everyone around you at risk. And that's improper muzzle awareness. Now, I know what you're thinking: come on, I know where my muzzle is pointed at all times. But do you, really? Because even seasoned shooters, people who've been handling firearms for years, have moments where they slip up. And the worst part? Most don't even realize it. Maybe you're reloading at the range, And as you rack the slide, your wrist rotates just a little too far. Or maybe you're carrying appendix and you've never really thought about what direction that barrel is facing when you sit down. Even in casual settings, I've seen people resting their gun on a bench, adjusting their gear, and without realizing it's sweeping their buddy's leg with the muzzle. Listen, safe gun handling isn't just about the obvious moments when you're aiming downrange. It's about every single second you have that firearm in your possession. Whether it's in your hand, your holster, or on a table, that muzzle needs to be controlled at all times. So here's a simple rule: make a habit of thinking about your muzzle like a laser beam. If it so much as crosses something you don't intend to destroy, stop, reset, fix your positioning. Because all it takes is one moment of carelessness for a routine movement to turn into a tragedy. Now, this next one is something I've seen even professionals mess up. It's something that doesn't just impact your safety, it can completely change how your firearm performs when you need it most. And that's failing to inspect your ammo. Here's the thing: not all ammo is created equal. And I'm not just talking about brands, I mean even within the same batch. You can have rounds that are damaged, improperly seated, or just plain unreliable. How many times have you grabbed a handful of ammo, loaded up your magazine, and hit the range without giving it a second thought? Be honest, because I'll tell you right now, most shooters, especially those who buy in bulk, assume every round in that box is good to go. But let me ask you this: would you trust a seatbelt that's frayed? Would you drive on a tire with a nail in it? Of course not. So why in the world would you trust a round that looks even slightly off? That's why before I ever load a mag, whether it's for a range session or for carry, I give each round a quick visual inspection. Look for dents, corrosion, or irregularities. If a round doesn't look right, toss it. It's not worth the risk. And while we're on the subject, let's talk about something even more overlooked: your storage conditions. Ammo isn't indestructible. If you're leaving it in a hot car, exposing it to humidity, or just tossing it loose in a bag, you're asking for trouble. Keep it dry, keep it cool, and keep it stored properly. Because when the time comes to use it, the last thing you want is a malfunction caused by something you could have prevented. Alright, we've talked about gun handling, holstering, even your ammo. But there's still one more overlooked mistake that too many shooters, yes, even the most experienced, tend to ignore. And this one, it's all about what happens after you fire that shot. So far, we've covered some of the most overlooked safety mistakes: complacency with trigger discipline, rushing the reholster, improper muzzle awareness, and even failing to inspect your ammo. But this last one, it's the difference between a responsible shooter and someone who's just going through the motions. And that's failing to maintain proper awareness after you fire. Here's the problem: too many shooters focus so much on getting the shot off that they forget about everything else happening around them. Whether you're at the range, in a competition, or God forbid in a real defensive situation, what happens after the shot is just as important as what happens before it. You ever notice how top-tier shooters, whether they're competitors or professionals, don't just shoot and stop? They follow through. They scan their surroundings. They assess. That's because the shot isn't the finish line, it's just one part of the process. Let's break it down. First, after firing, your sights should stay on target for a split second longer than you think they need to. This helps you manage recoil, ensure you hit your mark, and most importantly, confirm whether another shot is necessary. Second, don't just lock back into a relaxed stance right away. Keep your firearm at a low ready position and scan. Is the threat neutralized? Are there other dangers? On a range, this habit helps reinforce control. In real-world scenarios, it's even more crucial. And third, when you do decide to reholster, do it with purpose. We already talked about not rushing this part, but here's another reason. Why? If you put your gun away too quickly without making sure the situation is truly safe, you're putting yourself at unnecessary risk. And here's the kicker: this isn't just about defensive shooting. Even on the range, developing these habits keeps you sharp. It forces you to stay engaged with every shot, instead of just going through the motions. Because whether you're carrying for self-defense or just shooting for sport, Being intentional with every movement is what separates a casual shooter from a truly skilled one. At the end of the day, safety isn't about memorizing rules, it's about building habits. Every time you pick up a firearm, whether you're at home, at the range, or out in the world, you're either reinforcing good habits or letting bad ones take root. And as we've seen, even experienced shooters aren't immune to mistakes. That's why it's so important to check yourself. Take an extra second to verify your grip, your gear, your ammo. Slow down when reholstering. Keep that muzzle in check. And most importantly, stay aware not just before the shot, but after. Because being a responsible gun owner isn't about how many years you've been shooting. It's about how committed you are to doing it the right way every single time. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever caught yourself slipping on any of these? Maybe you've seen someone else make one of these mistakes? Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you got value out of this video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because the more we reinforce good habits, the safer we all are. Until next time, stay safe, stay sharp, and I'll see you in the next one.